grief. I want to talk about grief and how grief is so different for different people and the way it manifests in on where we store it in our bodies and all that. And this isn't in comparing one person's grief to another, but I've been having conversations with a friend who is going through something traumatic right now, and she's processing her grief. And we were having the conversations about the difference between grieving someone who you lost through death and then grieving someone who you lost through, say, a divorce or a betrayal, and how very different it is. Not saying that the one who, like, how do I say this? I don't want to say this where it's taking away from anybody's devastating grief, okay? But when somebody dies on you, they leave, it's their journey, there's closure maybe, or you can find closure, and you can cherish the memories of that person when you process the grief. When somebody who you were building a life with betrays you in such a devastating way and divorces you, leaves you, abandons you, and you have to go through that process, you still have to grieve the loss of the person. You're still grieving the loss of the relationship. You're grieving the loss of what you thought it was going to look like. But now you have these complicated emotions of somebody who you loved betrays you and hurts you. And so those memories of the one who, like somebody who passed away, they're not the same. You don't want to look at the pictures of when you were together. You don't want to drive by the places that used to hold memories for you of being there with that person that you love, because they have betrayed you in such a deep and devastating way, right? I think, people kind of look at divorce as in a flippant way. So like I said, I'm not comparing anybody's grief. Anybody who's listening who lost a loved one, who lost a spouse or a partner to death, I am not saying that your grief is not huge and massive in your life, and I'm not comparing them. I'm not putting them, next to each other and saying, well, this grief is worse than this grief. I'm not saying that. But I think when it comes to divorce and the devastation of divorce, especially if you didn't want it, the other person betrayed you, or they left you, or they stole from you, or they took from you, or they pretended to be somebody that they weren't, and all of that stuff is very, very a complicated grief. It's very, very hard to process. And there's not a lot of places where you get support. And this is a conversation I was having with my friend, because people say, oh, well, 50% of people get divorced. Like, you just move on, just go on with your life. It's not that. If it was that easy, believe me, people would be doing it more and more. And we hold on to that heartbreak, and that may manifest as a dis-ease. Women suffer heart attacks more than men. We hold things in our heart. You're saying you have a heartbreak. Don't be surprised when people are, women are having like massive heart attacks, because we're holding on to that pain in our hearts. Because where are we to put it? Oh, well, you got divorced, so what? So did this person, this person, and this person, and this person. It's not really a big deal. Like, half the world got divorced. Well, it is, though, when you're going through it. And I think that flippantness about it isn't the same, obviously, if you lost your spouse to, say, death, right? If you lost your spouse to death, you can cherish all those memories of the beautiful life that you built together, especially if you have children. If you lost your spouse to a betrayal and a divorce, you don't have that same feeling. You don't have the same feeling, and you don't get the same support. You just don't. And the reason that like I said, I'm mentioning this is because I've been talking to a friend who's going through something right now. Actually, I have a couple of friends who are going through something like this right now. And it's interesting, our conversations. I went through it many years ago, and I'm on the other side of it now. So I am not in that place anymore, but I do remember being in that place. I do remember the flippancy from from people around me, from friends, from family. Like, it's just a divorce. What's the big deal? Like, so many people get divorced. Well, it wasn't just the divorce. It was the death of the relationship that I had thought was going to be something that it wasn't. It was the fact that the betrayal was so deep that at the time, this is me talking at the time, I'm in a much different place now, but I am talking to my friends who are going through some things like this now. You're in so much pain because the person you had trusted, the person that you made vows to, and vows are sacred, like you have to, doing a devowing is a wonderful, by the way, is a wonderful ritual to do to take your vows back, right? If you go through something like that. But when you don't have the sympathy and the compassion to understand that the person who may have been with somebody for 20 years, 10 years, 15 years, 30 years, 40 years, your partner has not been the person you thought you were that whole time, and was so easily to betray you and basically burn down the house, is how you felt. Like that's how you feel, like your whole life has just been ignited on fire, and walks away. What are you supposed to do with all of those past memories? What are you supposed to do with them? You can't cherish them, because now you think, was it even real? Was it a lie? I don't want to think about that. I don't want to feel that way. Now, when a person dies, you think, oh my God, we had such a beautiful relationship. I miss them so much. And you tell the stories, the wonderful stories that make you laugh, right, with your friends and family. You don't want to do that when you're going through the divorce. You don't want to be reminiscing about the wonderful times, because they're tainted now. They're tainted. So that's why I'm saying it's much more complicated, and I don't feel that there's enough support out there for people who are going through a divorce when it's a complication like this. I'm not talking about, obviously, the people who have grown apart, have been very adult about it, have made the decisions in a constructive way together, and decided that they needed to separate. They were no longer meant for each other, and they did it in a conscious way. I'm talking about, when you're blindsided, and you're left, and you're, stolen from, and you're, basically the person who said that they would take care of you through sickness and in health, basically are the ones that hurt you and made you sick. Right? So it's just really, really interesting. And if you are going through that, I understand. And all I can offer you, as the person who has gone through this many years ago and is way on the other side of it, you will get through it, and you will be better off because of it. You will learn so much about yourself. It may change the trajectory of your life in such an amazing and better way, which it did for me, right? So now I can look back, and I'm grateful to have had the experience that took me on the path that I'm going now, but not at the time. And I did a lot of the work on my own. I didn't have the support, right? But I learned how to take care of myself in a way that, I know I can trust myself, and I can count on myself now. And there's a strength that I found that I don't think I could have maybe found in any other way. And so, having these conversations with, like I said, a couple of my friends who are going through major life changes, and and marriages ending, and trauma there, big trauma, I get when they're saying to me things like, it would have been easier if that person died. And I get it. And I get it. Okay. And that's what I'm saying. And I know that that's hard to hear. And for people who have lost somebody who said, oh my God, no, it wouldn't be. I'm not taking away from your grief. I'm not saying that at all, because I have had people die who I loved and I have felt the difference. What I'm saying is, when somebody you love dies, you get to keep those beautiful memories. When somebody you love betrays you on such a deep, deep emotional way, it's such a trauma to your spirit and your emotions and your body, that those memories are now complicated. It's not the same. Like I said, I'm not comparing. Everybody's grief is different. Everybody grieves differently. I'm not saying that yours is more or mine is more. I'm saying it's different. And I'm saying that I don't think there's enough support for people who are going through heartbreak from a complicated divorce, from a betrayal, the way that there are grief groups for people who have lost people and their support, right? I just don't think that enough people give, compassion enough for somebody who's going through that, because, you'll get that, well, 50% of the population is divorced. So what? Move on, get over it. You can always get divorced, move on. Let's just go, everybody else has done it. Why are you having such a hard time? You would never say that to somebody who lost a loved one in death. That's all I'm saying. You would never do that. So I think we just need to be a little bit more compassionate to people who have been betrayed on such a way that it's like earth shattering for them. Because when they tell you they're not okay, they're not. It doesn't mean they won't be, but they're not. But if you are listening and you've listened this long and you are in that space, I can tell you, time really, really, really does help, and you will be okay. Just keep doing the work. Whatever you need to do to heal yourself, find your people, find your support somewhere. Take care of yourself. Be easy on yourself. Be compassionate with yourself, And if somebody says, oh, it's not a big deal, like everybody gets divorced, just don't even take that on. Don't take that on. Just love yourself through it. And you will get there. You will get there. Okay? Give yourself time and space and rest and breathe and do things that you love, and even if it's, it doesn't matter what it is. Grounding, being in nature, doing art, listening to music, not listening to music, reading, whatever it is, exercising, do whatever you need to help your body process it. And if you feel like you need support, get a therapist, do, some body healing work with an energy healer, do some cord cutting, do some rituals around that. That really does help too. All right. I don't know why this came up. It's because I've been having conversations with two different people over the last few months who are going through something, and I've been there, and it's like, it just felt like the right time to speak about it. All right. Okay. I would love it if you would let me know your thoughts, your feelings, share, subscribe, comment, and like the videos. I really appreciate it. And wishing everybody lots of love right now. We could all use more love and compassion. Okay, bye.